Hi Bookish besties, my name is Brittany. This is Rescues and Reads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're already subscribed, as always, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you for returning to another video. Today it is time to do my December TBR. Hello everyone and welcome to the very first day of Bookmas. We are here. I am ready in my die-hard Christmas sweater and I am so very excited for what is to come in December. If you are not familiar, Bookmas is essentially the bookish version of Vlogmas, and so every day in December leading up to Christmas, I'm going to try to bring you one video a day, starting of course with my December TBR. And I am so excited because I kind of have a fun little project going on for my December TBR, and that is going to be a bookish advent calendar. You can kind of see it here next to me on my TBR cart. Now I know that bookish advent calendars are not a new concept whatsoever. However, I actually have no idea what books are wrapped in my bookish advent calendar. So I've mentioned this before, but I am in a couple of gifting groups on Facebook. One is a group that is entirely for gifting, and the other is just a planning group that happens to do monthly wishlist gifting events. And so as those books have come into me throughout the year, I have not opened them at all. I have given them immediately to my husband and I've had him hoarding them, and then I tasked him with wrapping the books. So I legitimately have no idea what books have come to me throughout the year. I have 13 books here. The 13th book is likely going to be an extra book just in case I need it. But the goal is essentially to unwrap one of these books every 2 days and read the book within that time frame. I will be unwrapping book number 1 in this video, and then I will be unwrapping every other book in the vlogs that I have planned for December. Now, for the most part, my Bookmas content is going to be formal sit-down videos. However, I will be having a couple of reading vlogs come out during that time, and it's going to be in those reading vlogs that you can see me unwrapping these books. I actually do also have a few other non-bookish advent calendars that I will be opening in those vlogs as well. I have the FabFitFun advent calendar, I have the Lush advent calendar, and I have an advent calendar from a beauty location in the UK called Cult Beauty. And like I said, I will be opening those every day in my vlogs as well. So stay tuned for that if you are interested. Now, because I have absolutely no idea what books are wrapped here, there are going to be a couple of caveats to this project. First, if I unwrap a book that I've already read, I'm not going to reread it in December. I do have a handful of books on my wish list that maybe I listened to and I've decided that I want those bookish trophies, so they remain on my wish list so that I can have them eventually for my bookshelf. So if I do unwrap something that I've already read, I'm not going to read it in December. I'm also allowing myself some grace that if I receive a chunky fantasy or a classic, that I'm going to allow myself to not read those either. I've mentioned this multiple times before, but as much as I love fantasy, I can only read a limited amount a year just because of how slowly I read them. The vast majority of what I read these days is on audiobook, but I need to read chunky fantasies with my eyeballs or read it immersively, so reading it with my eyeballs and listening to it at the same time. But I can only do that a handful of times a year just because of how slowly I have to read them, since I don't have a lot of time and concentration to sit down and focus on them. And because we're getting to the end of the year and things are just going to be really crazy, I don't think that I have the time to dedicate to a chunky fantasy. And similarly, I am not a classics girly. I try to read about one classic every single year. That's about as much as I can handle. And I actually just got done reading Wuthering Heights not 2 weeks ago. And so if I had read that earlier in the year, then maybe I would be ready for another classic. But since I just finished that, I'm going to allow myself to take a classic if I receive it and put it on the TBR for next year. So it will be my one classic that I read next year, if that makes sense. Also, if I happen to receive a book that's part of a series and maybe I'm not yet to the point in the series where I can read the book, I will just go ahead and read the next book in the series, assuming of course it is not a chunky fantasy series. So let's say I receive book number 3 in a series and I haven't read book 2, I will go ahead and read book 2 and then put book 3 on my TBR. So what happens if I open a book that I'm not going to be able to read in the month of December? Essentially, if it's a book that I haven't read, that book is going to go on my TBR, and then I'm going to take another book off of my physical TBR if I have one, because y'all know that my physical TBR is dwindling. It is bare bones at this point. Or I'm going to go on to Goodreads on my to read shelf, and then I'm going to do a random number generator to select something from that TBR to read. And I am so incredibly excited for this project. I'm excited to see what books are here. My husband did a beautiful job of wrapping these, and I can't wait to dive in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and unwrap book number 1. All right, we have book number 1 here. I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap it off camera because it's probably going to be pretty loud, and then we will come back and see what it is. I have the wrapping paper off. I haven't looked, so I'm gonna go ahead and tear the wrapping paper off and we are going to see what it is together. Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Okay, I have obviously read Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. It is one of my favorite series of all time, but I have these books on my wish list because I actually have some alternate dust jackets that I want to go ahead and use. So I'm just going to kind of slowly collect other Throne of Glass books so that I can use those alternate editions. So I will obviously not be reading this, but I will definitely be putting an alternate dust jacket on it. So because I ended up collecting 13 books and I have one extra, since the first book ended up being something that I'm not going to read, I'm going to go ahead and just open that extra book now so we don't have to immediately go to to my Goodreads TBR to pick something to read. Okay, so here it is. I don't know if you can see, but I have book number 13 here. So we're gonna go ahead and open this. It definitely feels like a small little paperback, which is good. It's probably something that I'm going to be able to fly through pretty quickly. So once again, I'm going to start opening it off camera and then we will see what it is together. All right, so I have it mostly unwrapped, so let's go ahead and see what it is. Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am so incredibly excited about this, y'all, because not only is this the last Taylor Jenkins Reid that I need to finish before I have read her completely to zero, but this is one of the oldest books on my TBR at this point. So if I get to this in December, I will not only have read Taylor Jenkins Reid to zero, but I will have gotten one of the oldest books off of my TBR, and I am so incredibly excited. This says, Elsie Porter is an average 20-something, and yet what happens to her is anything but ordinary. On a rainy New Year's Day, she heads out to pick up a pizza for one. She isn't expecting to see anyone else in the shop, much less the adorable and charming Ben Ross. Their chemistry is instant and electric. Ben cannot even wait 24 hours before asking to see her again. Within weeks, the two are head over heels in love. By May, they've eloped. Only 9 days later, Ben is out riding his bike when he is hit by a truck and killed on impact. Elsie hears the sirens outside her apartment, but by the time she gets downstairs, he has already been whisked off to the hospital. There she must face Susan, the mother-in-law she has never met and who doesn't even know that Elsie exists. Interweaving Elsie and Ben's charmed romance with Elsie and Susan's healing process, Forever Interrupted will remind you that there's more than one way to find a happy ending. I am absolutely here for it. Y'all know how much I absolutely adore Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've really loved pretty much everything that I've read from her, and I'm excited that this is the very first book that I'm going to be reading in December. All right, everyone, so that is it. That is the start of my bookish advent calendar journey for the month of December. I hope that you will come along with me in the vlogs and watch me unwrap one of these books every couple of days. I'm very happy with the first book that I will be reading in the month of December, and I hope the other ones are just as successful. If you have read Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid, please let me know. Also, please let me know some of the books that you plan to read in December. Are you going to be focusing purely on like holiday romances or winter specific themed books? Are there books that you're trying to clear off your TBR by the end of the year? Things that maybe you've been procrastinating on reading? Let me know some of your end of year goals. Or if you've made it to the end of this video and you are not feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me a ring emoji in honor of Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Throughout the month of December, I will be bringing you one video every day leading up to Christmas. So if you don't want to miss any of the content and to see what's to come, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and I hope to see you there. Until tomorrow, y'all. Bye.